Hello and welcome to the Wednesday, March 19th, 2025 edition of the SANS and its Storm Center's Stormcast. My name is Johannes Ulrich and today I'm recording from Jacksonville, Florida. Xavier came across an interesting piece of malware that he's sharing in today's diary. The malware itself arrives as a zip archive. Nothing really that special about it. It's called Hootsuite.zip. Hootsuite, I'm not sure if they're still around, was sort of a front end for Twitter. X, they had some issues when their API pricing changed. But either way, it's probably well enough known a company where some people may open that zip file. Also, the zip file itself, at least at first, doesn't appear to include anything malicious. There is a legitimate PDF reader. There is a PDF. Now, where it gets interesting is once you are starting the PDF reader. The reason the attacker is sending you that PDF reader is because this PDF reader is vulnerable to DLL sideloading. If it loads a DLL file, a library, it will prefer the file in the local directory over the one in the system directory. And with that, it's easy to replace a system library with a malicious one. That's exactly what's happening here. This then invokes a bad file. That bad file will install a complete Python environment because now who needs to save bandwidth these days? So complete Python environment is being installed and then a malicious Python script is being executed. Don't ask me why they don't just do PowerShell, because PowerShell is maybe too messy for them, but so is Python. I would have installed Perl just for good old times' sake. But anyway, the PDF reader is also much larger than the original, but there doesn't appear to be any additional malicious functionality here. Looks like they're just added additional sort of garbage at the end here to push it beyond 100 megabytes in size, which will then prevent some anti-malware solutions from scanning it. And one listener reached out over X to point out a little omission in the wall alarm blog post about the Tomcat vulnerability I talked about yesterday. I mentioned, and that's from the wall alarm blog post, that in order to be vulnerable, you need to use a file-based session manager. But in addition, as DKX here points out, you also need to configure the default servlet to be writable. Neither one of these two configurations is a default configuration, so someone would have to specifically configure Tomcat with these two options to be vulnerable. I have no idea how popular or common these particular configurations are. And Portswigger did release a detailed blog post showing how to exploit the recent ruby-saml vulnerability against GitLab. I think it's an important blog post. It does fill in sort of some of the holes left in the original announcement. The problems with these SAML vulnerabilities is they're fairly abstract and the risk isn't always easy to gauge of the exploit actually being used and being used against your particular site or your particular application. I think a blog post like this actually walking you through the exploit development and how it works in a specific case like GitLab here certainly brings home the message that these are real vulnerabilities that are actually exploitable. And Trendmicro's Third initiative published a blog post with details regarding a Windows shortcut exploit that's already being abused in numerous advanced persistent threat campaigns. Actually, the blog post goes over some of the APT campaigns that have taken advantage of this particular vulnerability. However, Microsoft at this point has no plans to actually fix it. And the reason is that, the nature of this vulnerability is a little bit tricky. So the problem here are the good old shortcut files, the .lnk or link files that are typically supposed to be used to basically just provide a convenience link to a particular piece of software. However, as part of the link file, an attacker can add arguments to the command they link to. And these arguments then, if you're creating your links right, will be able to execute arbitrary code. Now, a user may inspect the link file. Just right-click on it, and you can basically see the content on it, and you should see these command line arguments. So the user should have a chance, even though I consider this a small chance, of actually discovering the malicious exploit. That's sort of where the actual nature of the vulnerability comes in. By using, interesting combinations of white space characters, it's possible for an attacker to sufficiently obscure the actual command line arguments and basically push them off the screen, so a victim wouldn't actually see anything wrong when they're inspecting this file. In the end, it comes down to, in my opinion, that it's a user downloading and executing a piece of software that, they basically received from an unverified source. Not really all that different from just downloading and executing a .exe file. Not sure how much the file being a link file contributes to the likelihood of the exploit actually working. And I think that's a little bit here what Microsoft is thinking about. I don't know. It's probably also a hard one to fix for Microsoft compared sort of to the impact it may have for the security of the overall systems. It shouldn't be too difficult for anti-malware and such to basically check whether or not link files are using any of these specific characters. And yeah, the other problem still remains where a user may just download and click and execute a link file without first checking the parameters. And then, of course, that particular vulnerability wouldn't really matter. Well, and this is it for today. So thanks for listening, and hope you like it. If you like it, please leave a good review at your favorite podcast site if it allows for reviews, or click the 5-star, whatever it is, link. So thanks, and talk to you again tomorrow. Bye.